The U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security is heading to El Paso, Texas this morning to visit migrant detention centers at the border. The trip comes after 2 children from Guatemala died in U.S. custody this month. The outrage over those deaths putting pressure on Kirstjen Nielsen to reform detention centers. Megan Fitzpatrick is in Washington tracking more on this story for us. So first of all, Megan, let's start with why she's taking this trip right now.
Well, as you mentioned, there have been those 2 deaths of young children. But on top of that, Jennifer, the secretary says that there's been, in recent months, an unprecedented surge of children coming across the border, being apprehended and coming into the custody of the Border Protection Agency. And she's saying that it's clear that migrants, particularly children, are increasingly facing medical challenges caused by their journeys, many from Central American countries into the United States. So she's saying her department is taking a number of actions in reaction to the deaths and the unprecedented surge. Let's take a look at some of the steps she says her department is taking. They include increasing medical screenings for all children in custody. They're doing a particular focus on children under 10. She's also asked the Center for Disease Control to do an investigation into what she's calling an uptick in children who are ill. She's also asked the Coast Guard and their medical specialists to review the medical programs at the Department of Homeland Security to see if there's anything that can be done to improve them. Earlier this month, Jennifer, after the death of the first child in custody, they also increased the number of staff who have medical expertise. Now, she has been under a lot of pressure for how her department has handled the custody of children. She faced a grilling on Capitol Hill just a few weeks ago. She has been defending her department, though, and saying that it's been more than a decade since a child died in Border Protection custody. But of course, she is reacting to these 2 deaths and trying to show that her department is taking action on them.
This visit certainly comes at a time of intense scrutiny for the department, and yet they still need Congress's support to fund that border wall and end the current government shutdown. What are you hearing from politicians this week?
Well, Nielsen herself, in this statement that she put out this week, was calling on Congress to put politics aside, she said, and she is asking them for more resources for her department and more authority, she says, to handle what she calls a crisis. Putting politics aside is not likely to happen here on Capitol Hill, Jennifer, especially these days. Even today, the Democrats on Capitol Hill are calling for investigations into the deaths of these 2 children and saying they want all evidence preserved, that they want hearings launched into these deaths and the conditions at these Border Patrol facilities. What's the president saying about all this? Well, he hasn't tweeted about the death of this child on Christmas Eve specifically, but he has been very busy on Twitter this morning tweeting about border security in general, this time issuing a new threat, threatening to close the border entirely between Mexico and the United States unless he gets his border wall. He wants $5 billion to fund a border wall. Democrats in Congress obviously have not agreed to that. That's why there's this impasse right now and the partial government shutdown, lapse in funding for many government departments. And Jennifer, there's been no movement on that today. They're now in day 7 of the government shutdown, and a lot of people expecting it to go well into next week.
Megan, thanks for the latest. Megan Fitzpatrick in Washington.